What is going on, everybody? 'Tis I, the enigma of the gun airwaves, Miyanovich, welcoming you to Season 3 of the Liberal Gun Owners Lens podcast, where unprecedented perspectives are packed into the cargo hold for the LGO Lens spaceship Voyagio.
That's fucking Italian.
Don't believe that evolution is possible with guns and public safety in America? It's already happening, y'all. Minds are evolving. Think guns versus public safety is the only game in town, do ya? Think culture war is the big boss, do ya? Then keep your ass in the past. Everyone else, all aboard! People will know there are liberals out there that go apeshit on milsurp for sure.
Oh, yeah.
So the last time we talked, which was last December, I think. Well, the last time we talked like this, of course, we've messaged throughout the year, as we always do. We talked about small arms of World War II, the small arms of World War II, and we talked about the Winter War and the continuation war.
Right.
We wanted to move to the next time point, next touchstone that we felt had value, and that would be Vietnam, the weapons of the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
But in the middle part here, we also kind of have this thing that's the war, the forgotten war, the war that a lot of people don't think about, which is the Korean War.
Right.
And there's not much new happening there, as you said last time.
Right.
Just the Korean weapons, the small arms of the Korean War are essentially the small arms of World War II, correct?
Yeah, I would say, yeah. The individual weapons, the crew-served weapons. I mean, there's definitely a big change in, like airplanes, combat aircraft, but because the jet age hit right at the end of World War II. But in terms of small arms, it was like so close on the heels of World War II. Just 5 years later, we were awash in M1 Garand's, and in fact, that was the U.S. decided to bring in, two more manufacturers, HRA, Harrington and Richardson, and International Harvester, mostly because of the atomic age. We want some manufacturers that are inland, away from Massachusetts, where Springfield Armory was, and Winchester's up in the Northeast at that time, their manufacturing facilities in Connecticut. And so it was like, the old disperse and move inland philosophy. Although those contracts were brought online, but they didn't actually produce any until after the armistice in '53. So it was just the Springfield Armory and Winchester Garand's for rifles, and the M1911, the M3 grease gun, the M2 carbines. I guess that was the one difference from World War II, in that M2 select fire, carbines were plentiful in Korean War.
When was the move with the carbine from the 20 round magazine to the 30? Did that happen in the gap, or was that happening already in World War II?
World War II, yeah, it was all semi-automatic, 15-round magazine standard, and then they started building the M2 automatics carbines and the 30-round magazines at the end of World War II. I don't believe any of them entered service, even in the Pacific. It was 4 months behind in terms of BJ Day, so it was really in Korea when they came online in full. And M1s were back. Like they crossed out the 1 and put stenciled in a 2 or stamped in a 2 and upgraded those to the automatic version.
And I said 20 round, but it was 15 round.
Yeah, 15.
So that was basically the only difference there. I'm sure there were small adjustments here and there. I think I remember seeing, wasn't there an adjustment on the Grand? Was there a couple adjustments on the Grand itself? Moving it to like a stamped trigger guard.
Oh yeah, I think that entered it. Late in World War II, from the mill to the stamped. But yeah, they would have been all stamped by IH and HRA would have made stamped ones. A few other things, and of course the M1C and then M1D sniper rifles. Sniper rifles today we would have called them DMR, given their low power and everything, but they were designed in World War II and started to be built, but they didn't come online in time for World War II. So in the Korean War, those were around.
Yeah. And that's a blink. We don't when we look back at history, it seems so grand, like seems so huge, right? Because these stories just grow huge and the legend and all of that. 5 years is a fucking blink. Like it was like a nothing and then boom, we're in Korea.
Right.
Have you done much like reading on the Korean War?
A little bit.
Because there's no difference with the weapons. You haven't been like drawn really to it much.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm interested in the history. I mean, I've read, more like accounts like, Chosin Reservoir and things like that were just like famous, horrific battle situations. And I mean, Korea was amazing in terms of the seesaw of that, from the initial attack and everyone drawn down to the Pusan perimeter in the far southeast, and then, then the reversal of fortune and all the way back up almost to the Yalu, and then the Chinese PVA, break off from the PLA came flooding across and reversed it again. And then after 3 years of carnage, they ended up with status quo back at the same line, only a little more squiggly instead of straight across.
Right. We'll be talking more about that kind of why the fuck did we even engage in that here, because we're going to be talking about Vietnam soon.
Yeah.
But do you, in the American consciousness at the time, was there any read on that? Like in the history that you've exposed yourself to, what were people thinking about the Korean War at the time? Were they like, what the hell's going on over there? Or were they engaged in it? Probably not to the same degree of as World War II, but did the American consciousness engage that?
I don't know. That's more like civilian sociology study, but I can't imagine that they weren't, people weren't exhausted with war. That was so close to World War II. And even though U.S. kind of got off light, if you will, in terms of casualties, it was significant. It depends on how anti-communist you were, I guess. And before they, Dulles put words to, the Domino Theory, but there's definitely great anti-communist sentiment and fear of the Soviet Union and acquisition of nukes, et cetera, et cetera. And then, of course, the Chinese Communist Party had just taken over this, in China in 48, so that was really fresh. So I suspect the level of awareness and support for Korea, our involvement in Korea would depend on sort of where you were politically.
Was that concern about communism fast, relatively speaking? Our concern about the Russians after World War II.
Yeah.
Was that pretty fast? Was that fast? I mean, they're on our side. We win. There's a breath. And then all of a sudden they're our enemies, or communism is our enemy.
I think anti-communist sentiment was around after World War I, and the Soviet Union was sort of the enemy of my enemy is my friend type of situation. Even though we went all in, I mean, we, shipped so much equipment to them to keep them from getting overrun by the Germans. So it was a true alliance, but it was always a suspicious alliance.
Right.
After World War II, it was like, oh, now we have the new Russian bear is still there and we're afraid of them, and vice versa.
If you're arguably the most powerful military on the planet,
right,
you kind of need an adversary there. You need to have something.
Yep.
There was another question. When was the Domino Theory seeded?
I think it was John Foster Dulles who put those words out in the Eisenhower administration in the mid-50s. But I could be off on, timing. I think it was after Korean War.
Okay. It's kind of important. Of course, we're talking about weapons. Neither you or I are historians, and you need to keep a light hand on history so you know what you're buying or know what the context is.
I mean, it's the context, it's the framework of why were these things used.
So the Korean War happens, and on the weapons front, the small arms front, there's not really much.
Not a lot different on the Allied side, and similarly on the opposing forces. They were, the Chinese and the North Koreans were using bolt-action Mosin rifles or captured Japanese rifles, and then whatever was produced in China, which was still bolt action. So not even the semi-auto revolution had reached them in terms of, the SKSs were just coming online in the Soviet Union. They weren't letting those out to, lesser allies, shall I say. They were barely coming online for the Soviets.
Yeah. You would think it would be, well, I guess it was. It ended up being a priority because the Grand reestablishes like the baseline for operation.
Yeah. Yeah. World War II, I mean, definitely semi-autos came into the full, came online big time. Soviets had the SVT-40, 38 and 40, and the, Germans fielded the G41 and then G43, although their timeline was rushed and they had flaws, but, and they never were the U.S. was way ahead because we had it designed in the 20s, online in the late 30s, and fully implemented during World War II.
Yeah, and it sets the standard for the personal rifle for infantry worldwide.
Yeah, but it was really, that area moved from bolt actions to semi-autos to automatics, like the AKs and select fire M14, etc., in a matter of, a decade. So, that was a really short developmental timeline too, similar to the, jet combat aircraft. Nothing like war to drive technology development.
Yeah, well, for sure. And there are so many rabbit holes philosophically I think I could go down there in terms of, because the question would be, once the nuclear reality is established, I would imagine it would have to push everything faster, harder. You have to, whatever your ideas are, you must. And if the nuclear weapons weren't there, would that have happened? I'm not so sure. I think it just establishes you have to innovate and go as far and as fast as you can.
Yeah, I think it almost pushed an urgency on the conventional weapons development and tactics side, because we sure as hell don't want a global nuclear conflagration. It's like, how do you avoid that?
We're slowly edging towards Vietnam here, and there's a couple thoughts I had about how we should do that today. And one of those is, what drives the military strategists to now have a concern on the American side? What drives this concern about the .308 round moving down to a .22 caliber based round? When does that start, and why are they concerned about it? What changes? Because in World War II, you have people saying that this is the greatest fucking implement that's ever happened. And all of this stuff is pushing forward now. And then all of the sudden, this change in philosophy to the .308 is too much. Now we need to move towards the .22. In your mind, how does that happen, or why does that happen?
It was, the timelines were so close. It was almost like two parallel, trains of thought. It seems like, when you look back at the timelines, it's just like, wow. For example, the M14 was officially adopted May 1st, 1957. Like 6 days later, some other general was asking for 10 of the new Stoner, downsized AR-10, the AR-15, in the 5.56 for trials. So it was like, some people were, okay, the next big war is the land war in Europe. We need to reach out and touch someone. 7.62 by 51 is a half-inch shorter cartridge than 30-06 without giving up much in ballistics. It's a main battle rifle round, but it's heavy, and so are the weapons. And people that are looking at Southeast Asia and what the French suffered there in the early 50s, culminating in Dien Bien Phu in 54. It's like, oh, well, we're going to have to fight in this jungle environment where we're not going to be coming in deuce and a halves and tanks formations, and everyone's going to be, grunts are out hiking through the jungle, and we need a lightweight rifle and lightweight round so they can carry hundreds of rounds for 2 weeks. So I think there were different people that were stuck in World War II and land war in Europe, and probably visionaries that were looking at, the jungle's an entirely different thing, and it looks like we're getting sucked into that. So I think there's this small caliber, high velocity concept, and that was where the M16 and the M193 ammo came from.
Do you think that there was speculative probably, tens and tens of thousands of soldiers, American soldiers in World War II. You think there's a stream of feedback coming from, peppered about in all of the experiences of these soldiers, of these specifically infantrymen, that the Grand is awesome, but I could have done what I did with something that was way lighter and a way less. That was a lot of shit to carry, or that was heavy, but I could have done so much better. Do you think there was testimonies like that were pushing the Army to be like, well, maybe we should be looking into something a little lighter? Maybe.
And I think that was where the 7.62 by 51 was coming from. I mean, that was the push there. Maybe it was like looking at if you look at the BAR and how heavy that is, over 20 pounds, and 20 round magazine, and look at the M14, 20 round magazine, select fire. BAR is automatic only. The M14 was select fire. So I think that was probably where, those World War II lessons led to the 7.62 by 51. But the 5.56 was so close on its heels that it looks like it was a parallel track of different thoughts for a different situation. I mean, it was almost an emergency sort of development, I think, just as the M14 made its way through the, long development timeline, traditional timeline. Then we were in a different war. Yeah, it seems to come along with the Domino Theory. Yeah, right. That's like the emergency feeling is right. Holy shit, Southeast Asia. Yeah, and this is where we're going to go, and the strategists are like, this is where it's going to go, and then the weapons people are like, we can't be carrying fucking Garans and M14s right? So, which is something you just established here minutes ago. And it just so happens, my thought about today was, if we're going to be talking about the small arms of Vietnam, we're talking about Eugene Stoner. That's almost the entirety of what we're going to talk about today, because what else are we going to talk about? Hand grenades and knives and like the pistols. This is entirely about the AR-15. Yeah. And it's entirely about Stoner, and it's entirely about what happens. So it just so happens that, like the stars aligning. I'm on the record. I don't really like the AR-15. Like, I'm not against it. Like, I have a few, right? I have a few builds and stuff. And John is, for those of you who are listening, John is showing us, the A2. It's an AR-15. The civilian carry model handle and a high front post. It's a Colt AR-15 is A1. Okay. Yeah. And what kind of, you have an optic on top of the handle. What do you have there? Well, it's a reproduction of the actual scope that, was available. I don't know how widely issued it was, but it was designed for. Yeah. And the triangular fore end. Yep. Right. That's yep. So those of you who are, and John also dressed up today, and I forgot to put my helmet on because I want to have the helmet. And John had his fucking helmet on. He's got like fatigues on. God bless him. I was so busy. There's so much going on here. I forgot to grab my helmet, but, which is like our tradition. Right. Now we need to be dressed, and I fucked it up. So there just so happens, I brought up that thing about, I don't really like the AR. I don't get the passion for it. Like, I intellectually do, but it to me feels like a soulless rifle. As somebody who's handled many rifles, it just feels like it feels soulless to me. And maybe that's because of machined aluminum. Maybe that's because of the way that it came about. Maybe that's because of the look. I do not have many, many things that I will say about all of the guns that I've fired in my life. I do not have many definitive statements like, I fucking hate this aspect of this firearm. I fucking hate it. I don't have many of those. But some of them would be like the Smith & Wesson snub nose airweight. Yeah, there's a good reason to hate that. I fucking hate that gun. I can make it work, but it is so annoying to fucking shoot. Yeah. And no matter what I did, there's no making that, there's no unfucking that. Right. So I have things like that. Right. I love the CZ75 series. But
the thickness of the grip and the angle is just a little bit, I feel it every time. I love the gun. I have a 75B. I love it.
Yeah.
But there's the one thing about how the grip angle is, and I'm just like, fuck, if that just wasn't there, I don't fucking like it. So I'm bringing all of that up because those are like two examples. The worst example that I have that I just fucking hate, like 100% hate, is the decision on the AR-15 to put the charging handle up top and close to the face. I cannot stand the fucking charging handle on the AR-15.
Yeah.
And I will never fucking like that decision. I can operate it. People operate it and it's awesome and they don't care about it. I fucking hate it, John.
Okay.
I hate it.
Registered.
So, yes. So we need to know, as we're talking about the AR-15 today, it is the only thing about gun and all of guns where I'm like, fuck no to that decision.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it is a weird choice. I don't have this visceral hatred for it, but I've just shot a number of rifles, whether they're bolt guns or semi-autos, where everything just, it's great. Like the whole thing is like, holy fuck, this is great. Mm-hmm.
But that fucking charging handle, oh my God, it gets under my skin. But I'm not the one that designed it, and I'm just some guy. I will always bag on Stoner for that decision before we talk about Stoner.
But overall, it's a great rifle.
It is. But
it's a rifle. I'll take it. I'll take an AR-15 out the range when I want to feel good about my shooting abilities because it makes you a good shooter. It's so easy to shoot.
Yes, it's the combination of traits. Okay, it's registered the charging handle. It's really hard for me to now go to this next place. The traits, the combination of traits, the balance of traits is so hard to beat. It is very intuitive. It's very easy to hold.
Yeah.
The round is the perfect round. It's a fucking recoil that you have to deal with is like nothing. It's modular and you can make it ergonomic to yourself. Well, yeah. I mean, reasonably speaking, it's priced very good. All of the bullshit has been hammered out of it.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why America loves it.
Yeah.
For sure. But it is interesting to me. It's like, to get back to Stoner and the history, it's like the stars lined up for it. Like you just so happen to have Eugene Stoner working on this kind of when it was needed, right?
And it almost comes out of the failure to adopt the AR-10. I mean, he wanted to get in on the 7.62 NATO with the AR-10 and, had minor success with other countries, but obviously missed the big prize because we decided Springfield Armory will convert the M1 Garand to the Select Fire M14, which looks a heck of a lot like the Garand and operates a lot like it, but has 20 round removable magazines, But he had the AR-10 all developed, so he, cut his teeth on that, and the bolt's the same, and a lot of the operations the same. So it's like, okay, downsize it. It's already robust enough to take the 7.62 by 51. Let's reduce the size and grab develop off the cuff this small caliber, high velocity round that the Army says it wants, even though they haven't developed anything. And so we'll pick the 222 Remington, make this trial, cartridge for the rifle, knowing that, obviously the Army will develop that ammunition further and thoroughly before they adopt my rifle, but I've got to have something to work with, and they haven't provided me anything. So this is what I'm going to do. So that's where the M193 comes along. But it was developed by someone who's not an ammunition developer, and he knew that. It's like, I'm getting way ahead of myself, but that's where a lot of the problems with the early AR-15 in country came from. The ammunition was lagging behind in terms of development and what it meant for everything from cleaning to case hardness. I mean, there were so many factors that led to the early issues with the AR-15 ammo combination. Yeah.
And Stoner, Stoner's an interesting guy. He's a geek, right? He's an engineer geek, and he's in the military, and he's dealing with armaments, and he's dealing with weapons, and he discovers a passion for it, carries that into his civilian life, and on his own, his passion is designing these rifles and designing weapons. He ends up designing the thing that the survival rifle for the Air Force, right?
Yeah. The R7.
And they end up not using it, or they get some, but they never really use it. And then that project goes down the shitter, or it ends, right? That's kind of what happened.
Well, it's always a small purchase quantity anyhow to begin with.
But that puts Armalite on the map, and it puts him on the map. And he's got all these other designs, and then the stars align, and then boom, his design ends up being the one that the Army chooses. Let's talk about what you just brought up, which is the early myth of the AR-15, the early negative myth, right? This is that rifle fucking sucks thing, and that still sometimes persists today and has persisted for decades with different people. So I found a site that did an analysis that really boils it down. And it's essentially that first iteration that they called, and for anybody that's listening who's new, AR doesn't mean automatic rifle. It stands for Armalite, the company that Stoner worked for. So he has the AR-15, and then they create a bunch of different designations for it depending upon who's using the base design or whatever. So we end up with, you can correct me if I'm wrong, John, if you know that. So, the XM16E1 is the model designation that ends up in the early part of Vietnam, and is the iteration that has all of the fucking problems, and people die as a result of it.
Yeah, that's basically M16. And I think the problems were, well, it's so complicated, but yeah, there were some problems with the rifle, like the buffer, but the overwhelming problems was Army policy. It's like, oh yeah, you don't have to clean it. And oh, by the way, we switched powders. Well, went from the first 1 million rounds to the next 100 million rounds. And the new powder is 1, dirtier, and 2, a little bit slower. So the cyclic rate goes up and the pounding goes up. And it's like, it's just the rush timeline thing, and not fully developing the ammo as they were working on fully developing the rifle, and basically doing field trials in a huge way is what they effectively did. The idea that you hardly ever have to lubricate it or clean it was just stupid, and was partially stupidity brought around by not understanding the environmental conditions in Vietnam too. Rust happens even with smokeless powders and lead stiff-mate primers that do not produce corrosive salts, just because you're constantly wet. So chambers got corroded and cartridges stuck. It's like there were 8 different problems. One
of the other points that was brought up in the couple pieces that I analyzed was, so the rifle gets to the XM16E1, or the M16, the early M16 gets to the military in 64. And most of the usage from 64 until somewhere in 65, the Battle of Ia Drang, right? And so, is a lot of like rear echelon, or like a lot of people that are testing or using the rifle, and there's no real heavy combat. There's not a lot of moisture in the situations that they're in, and everybody has this like really high opinion of it because it's not really in the shit. It's being used, but it's not being used totally in the shit. It's whenever 65 happens and it gets its test inside of those conditions is when everything starts to like cascade downhill. So the point that person brought up was that there was a lot of early feedback and arrogance about it because the rifle wasn't being used in the shit. And so people were like, this thing's the best. You don't have to, like you said, you don't have to clean it. It doesn't fail. It's straight from the gods. And this is like the amazing. And then when you put it into the conditions of a jungle, things change. This person also brings up the chamber and the bore of the barrels were not originally chrome plated.
Yeah, they weren't chrome lined because they didn't know how to do it on such a small bore.
Yeah, and so there you have the moisture and the pitting and so on and so forth. And also this person brought up that the Army willfully used the wrong powder, as you just brought up. So, Vietnam. So for anybody that's listening, I just grabbed this fact. Vietnam experiences an average rainfall of 76 inches per year. 90% of which drops during a rainy season that lasts 155 days. The average humidity is 78%. And for context, the average humidity in Florida is 74%. So that should, if you don't have a barrel that likes that and your powder is shit and your cartridge selection is shit, and you have a bunch of people in the Army lying to everybody, this is not leading to a good place.
Yeah.
And people died in Vietnam because of it.
Yeah.
We get to, so then that moves, so the powder issue and the technical issues lead to a fucking CYA, cover your ass effort in the Army to get things right. And the M16A1 results from that. So we go from the problematic XM16E1 to the M16A1. And once the M16A1 is in place, pretty much all of those issues are ironed out. And then we have a different experience with the rifle.
Yeah. And I'd say the biggest factor really was, the Army saying, oh, clean it. And I mean, really, that was, I mean, if they had done that from the start, they wouldn't have had all the other issues, or other issues would have cropped up in a less lethal manner. You know, I mean, it's just, silly in retrospect to think that you could shoot a gas operated rifle and say, oh yeah, and you don't have to clean it. It's like, are you freaking crazy?
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, so I like to say this when I talk to people in 1890, I could say 1880 to 1890, we were still using horses and like whale oil for lamps.
Yeah.
Right. And
black powder.
Yeah. So that's 1880. 60 years later, we have nuclear weapons.
Right. Jet airplanes. And 80 years later, we're walking on the moon. That's got to be the fastest 80 years of technological development in the history of Homo sapiens. Yeah.
It has to be.
For sure.
We're not geared to go that fast. We can make it go that fast, but we're not geared to adapt to it or do well with it or do awesome with it in many ways. The 20th century was a slaughterhouse. It was awful. And certainly that's related to that. But so once the nuclear weapons happen, as we talked about before, there is a tremendous amount of pressure now on basically a fucking modified monkey, which is what we are. There's an enormous amount of pressure on humans, particularly the number one military juggernaut on the planet, and people are overconfident, rushing, doing stupid shit. And so it's easy to see how something like the M16 could have a shit run, right?
Yeah.
Lots of pressure, and people die in this nexus between hurry up, military technology. We have overarching geopolitical strategies emerging, like Domino Theory, and so it's easy to see, right? Why that would happen. It's still awful, but easy to see. Is there anything else going on along with the M16, or anything else going on you think that's worthy of mention for the weapons that are being used? Is there anything like
I don't know, on the U.S. side?
Yeah, on the U.S. side. Let's say on the U.S. side.
Yeah. I mean, other than Stoner saw a lot of these issues, especially the ammo.
Yeah.
Like, what the heck are you doing? I just, adapted something because you didn't give me a cartridge to work with. This needs to be developed. I was like, oh, and DuPont stopped making this powder, and now you're going to throw some other powder in there, not even of the same type, and expect it to run correctly when the whole thing with semi-automatic and automatic weapons is that the ammunition and all the subtle details of the rifle are co-developed, and they have to be co-developed. I mean, the dwell time, the diameter of the gas port, all that stuff, the rate of burn of the powder, all those things are, simultaneously changing variables that have to be optimized.